Hey there fellow defenders, if you're diving into the world of special anime defense, you already know how crucial it is to make every gem count. That's right, those shiny gems are your ticket to building the ultimate defense and blasting through those waves of enemies. But with so many units to choose from, where should you spend your precious resources? Don't worry, we've got you covered. We've gone deep into the game, analyzed every single tower, and ranked them from the absolute best to the ones you might want to avoid. So, sit back, grab some snacks, and get ready, because today, we're breaking down our definitive special anime defense tier list. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting, this list will help you decide which units deserve your gems and which ones might be better left in the shop. Trust us, your future self will thank you when you're dominating those leaderboards with the best team possible. Let's dive in. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking units in special anime defense. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Naruto Kid, Goku, and Sasuke Kid. Alright, so let's talk about some of those D tier units in special anime defense that you might find yourself using early on. First up, we have Naruto Kid. Now, Naruto Kid is basically a slightly better version of Sasuke Kid. Think of him as your go-to rare unit until you manage to get your hands on an epic. He comes with a better SPA, so he's got a bit of an edge, but don't get too attached. He's really just a stepping stone to something greater. Then there's Goku. Now, Goku's got this pretty neat cone AoE attack, which means he can hit a bunch of enemies at once. Sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. His SPA is a bit on the high side, which can make him a little less valuable than Naruto Kid in the long run. And don't forget about Sasuke Kid, who might have the cheapest placement cost and the most balanced stats among all the rares, but honestly, he's still not quite as good as Naruto Kid overall. So yeah, if you're rocking any of these, just remember, they're not gonna be your forever team. Keep grinding for those epics. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Saboto, Gen, and Sasuke Curse Mark. Alright, let's talk about the C tier units in special anime defense. Now, I know what you're thinking, C tier doesn't sound that great, but trust me, there's still some value here if you know where to look. Let's start with Saboto, who's actually the best of all the epic units in this tier. He's got the same range as Gen and Sasuke Curse Mark, but his SPA and damage output are just a bit better. And get this, he even has an extra upgrade compared to the others, which makes him a sneaky good pick, especially if you're looking to push further in infinite mode. Not bad for a C tier, right? Now, moving on to Gen, who's a bit of a mixed bag. He comes with a smaller AoE attack and slightly lower DPS than Saboto, plus his placement and upgrade costs are a bit higher. But hey, he still has his moments. Then there's Sasuke Curse Mark, and oof. Yeah, he's a tough sell. This guy has the most expensive placement cost and some pretty underwhelming stats. Honestly, use him only if you don't have Saboto or Gen, or if you're feeling nostalgic about Sasuke's Curse Mark days. Otherwise, he's probably just going to be collecting dust on your roster. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Demon Lord, Gen Sirius, Thick Browed, and Toshi. Alright, let's dive into some B tier units in special anime defense. Now you might be thinking, B tier? Are these units even worth it? And honestly they are. These guys might not be top tier, but they've got some tricks up their sleeves that make them pretty solid picks, depending on how you play. First up, we've got Demon Lord. Now, this guy is stronger than any legendary unit out there, but he falls short of mythic status. You might be tempted to put him in his own tier, but trust me, that's not necessary. Why? Well, even though he packs a punch, a fully leveled Gen Sirius can actually outperform Demon Lord thanks to Gen's full AoE attack. So, if you're looking for power, Demon Lord's got it, but he's not the end-all be-all. Speaking of Gen Sirius, he's the only legendary unit with full AoE right from the start, making him a lifesaver in those early waves. Sure, his DPS and range aren't as high as Thick Browd's when maxed out, but he's far from a slouch. He's a reliable pick, especially if you want to breeze through the early game without breaking a sweat. But remember, Thick Browd may be the strongest legendary when fully upgraded, but he's a bit of a slow starter. If you don't have something to carry you through those first few waves, Thick Browd might leave you hanging. And then there's Toshi. On paper, this guy's got the highest DPS of all the legendaries. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. He starts with a pretty bad cone attack, and it only gets worse when he's fully upgraded to a small AoE attack. If you've got other legendaries at your disposal, you might want to leave Toshi on the bench. He's just not cutting it compared to the other options out there. So, while these B tier units might have their drawbacks, they've still got some serious potential if you play them right. The units in this tier are Lashi's House in order from top left to bottom right, Nobara, Kahlua Whirlwind, Shonks, and Gen Adult. Alright, let's dive deeper into some of the A tier units in special anime defense and see what makes them tick. First up, we've got Nobara, a mythic unit with a solid set of balanced stats. She's a great all-rounder, which means she'll hold her own in most scenarios. However, don't get too excited about her evolution. It doesn't quite pack the punch of some of the other mythics out there. But hey, if you like a steady performer who's reliable and doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, Nobara might just be your go-to. Now, let's talk about Kahlua Whirlwind. This guy is all about speed. He's got the lowest SPA, seconds per attack, among all mythics, which makes up for his lower base damage. Think of Kahlua as the ultimate glass cannon. He may not hit the hardest in one go, but he makes up for it by attacking so fast that your enemies won't know what hit them. If you enjoy watching a whirlwind of attacks decimate your foes, Kahlua is the mythic you want on your team. And finally, we've got two unique units that might surprise you, Shonks and Gen Adult. Shonks might seem like a slightly weaker version of Arriver at first, but don't let that fool you. His evolution is a game changer, making him a top priority for anyone serious about pushing through tougher levels. On the flip side, Gen Adult is very similar to Nobara in his base form, but his evolution takes things up a notch, giving him a distinct edge. So if you're torn between these two, remember it's all about who grows stronger in the long run. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Arriva Reaper Gen, Kahlua Godspeed, Nobara Mark, Itachi, and Arriva. Alright folks, let's dive right into the S tier units of special anime defense. If you're looking to dominate, these are the heavy hitters you'll want on your team. First up, we have Arriva Reaper. Now, don't get me wrong, this unit is a beast. Arriva Reaper's got some of the highest DPS you'll find among the EVO mythics, and that's no small feat. The only thing holding it back from the S+ tier is its circle AoE, which can be a bit limiting when you're up against swarms. But when it comes to bosses, Arriva's sheer damage output is worth its weight in gold. Next, let's talk about Gen. You might have heard that he's got slightly less DPS compared to Evo Shonks, but here's the kicker. Gen is full AoE. That means he's not just a boss killer, he's wiping out anything in his path. This makes him a top 5 mythic right now, and honestly, he deserves that spot. If you want a unit that brings the pain to everything on the screen, Gen is your guy. Now, for those of you who love a low SPA with great overall DPS, Kahlua Godspeed is where it's at. He's fantastic against bosses, with his quick attacks keeping the pressure on, and if that's not enough, Nobara Mark is here to spice things up. She's another mythic who shines in boss fights, thanks to her higher damage, though her slower SPA does balance it out a bit. But trust me, when she hits hard. And last but definitely not least, let's give a shout out to Itachi and Arriva. Itachi is hands down the strongest non-EVO mythic when it comes to DPS. His long range and cone AoE make him perfect for both bosses and mobs, especially in those tricky straight sections. And Arriva, well, he may not bring any unique utility to the table, but his DPS alone makes him one of the top non-EVO mythics in the game. If you want raw power, these two are fantastic options to round out your roster. So there you have it, your go-to S tier units for taking down everything in special anime defense. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hosoko Bungie, Sand Madman Rage, Sand Madman, Hosoko, Itochi Edo, Shonks Conqueror, and Bulma. Alright folks, let's dive deeper into the absolute creme de la creme of special anime defense, our S+ tier units that every player should be aiming for. If you're looking to dominate your matches, these are the units you want on your side, and for a good reason. First up, we have Hosoko Bungie, an absolute beast and the only secret unit with a full AoE attack when fully upgraded. Think of it like a fireworks show that destroys everything in its path. Hosoko Bungie's ability to hit everything in a radius makes it just a little more effective than its closest competitor, Sand Madman Rage, and trust me, in a game where every millisecond counts, that makes a world of difference. Speaking of Sand Madman Rage, this bad boy is not to be underestimated. While it might not have the same wide reach as Hosoko Bungie, it compensates with raw, unfiltered damage. When it comes to melting bosses, no unit in SAD can come close to the sheer power of Sand Madman Rage. It's like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. Overkill, but oh so satisfying. Now, let's talk about Shonks Conqueror, the perfect partner to Gen. This mythic not only has a full AoE attack like Hosoko Bungie, but also boasts insane DPS, which keeps it solidly in the meta. If you want to wreak havoc and watch your enemies crumble, Shonk's Conqueror is your go-to. You'll find yourself grinning from ear to ear as you watch this unit do its thing. And we can't forget about Bulma, the unsung hero of your squad. She's the only farm unit in the game right now, and you know what that means, she's indispensable. If you're serious about leveling up your game, Bulma is the one unit you need in your arsenal to get that cash flow going. Because let's be honest, more cash means more upgrades, and more upgrades mean more wins. Lastly, there's Itachi Edo, the evolved mythic powerhouse that has it all. Higher base damage, better range, and superior SPA than its regular counterpart. Arguably the strongest Evo mythic right now, Itachi Edo is the unit you bring when you want to make a statement. He's the MVP who turns the tide of battle in your favor. So, whether you're strategizing for a new match or just dreaming up the perfect squad, these S+ tier units are the ones to beat. Get them, use them, and watch your enemies fall. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.